Hello, and welcome to all of our viewers. My name is MK Smith,
And I'm Bassam Haddad.
and we are both excited to be your co-hosts for Season 2, Episode 13 of Live with ASI, A Month of Knowledge Production. Today, we'll be covering the month of June.
أهلا وسهلا.
We have a very packed show today with a new issue of the Arab Studies Journal, a new issue of Status Al-Wada Audiovisual Journal, the Navigating Anti-Authoritarianism and Anti-Imperialism project, an article on music politics after the Arab Uprisings, and a new episode of the Connections podcast. A whole lot of pedagogy, some new texts out now, as well as some must-read recommendations.
And of course, engaging interviews with a number of our really stellar guests, starting with Starling Carter, Arang Keshavarzian, Zein El-Amine, Muhammad Ali Nail, Mu'in Rabbani, Makarim Al-Jamal, Carly Krakow, and Shakila Omar.
As always, you can find all of the content discussed on the show today in the episode digest, which will be published on Jadaliya in the coming days.
So sit back, relax, and let's get to it.
We'll start today off with an exciting announcement. The spring 2022 issue of the Arab Studies Journal is now available.
This issue provides varied and critical foray into intellectual production, history, and institutional organization, and includes two empirically grounded and historiographically challenging articles, one on Christian conservatism in Lebanon in the years preceding the 15-year civil war, and the other on the history of the UAE's conscription of foreign personnel into its armed forces.
Additionally, the issue includes another robust installment of book reviews offering insight into a range of topics, including U.S. foreign policy, Islamist institutional organization, moral ecology, and training in the decorative arts.
Is this an interlude?
We're excited to share with you that a very special project that has been in the works for a long while has finally kicked off. The Navigating Anti-Authoritarianism and Anti-Imperialism project will host a number of workshops, panels, and conversations regarding the critical nuances at play when dealing with anti-authoritarian movements within the context of imperialism.
The project seeks to address questions on the efficacy of current definitions, conceptual trade-offs, analytical thresholds, and so much more. And actually, we held our first workshop. It was a closed workshop last month, and it was quite a dynamic and fruitful discussion.
Here to tell us more is Associate Professor and Department Chair at NYU's College of Arts and Sciences, Arang Keshavarzian.
Let me welcome Arang into our room. Hi, Arang. How are you?
Hello. Good afternoon.
Great to have you again, Arang. This is not the first time you join us, and we hope that you become more fixture, given that there's quite a few things that we'll be doing together. Arang, I know that I was at the meeting. I'm one of the co-organizers along with Lisa Wadeen, and we have a core group of 4 or 5 people that actually started the project, and then we expanded to 13 with the first workshop. Can you share with us, as one of the core members and a participant in the first workshop, what were some of the highlights of the discussion, whether it's your insights or the insights of other participants?
Sure, Bassam. It's a pleasure and an honor to be part of this project. As you mentioned, I think many of us have been thinking about these issues for many years, if not many decades. The challenge of standing up against both imperialism and authoritarianism across the world, but in particular the Middle East. If I could distill some of the discussion, it was a very lively discussion, very thoughtful comments by a group of about a dozen colleagues, researchers with deep knowledge both of the Middle Eastern cases or countries and areas, but also thoughtful reflections on how politics works internationally. If I could, there was a strong consensus that we as a group and a kind of a larger intellectual community should work on interconnecting anti-imperialism and anti-authoritarianism, rather than simply accepting the notion that one has to be prioritized over the other, or one struggle, the struggle for, say, anti-imperialism, should be deferred for a struggle against authoritarianism and so forth. And this is the kind of in the current climate that we're in. We're continuously asked to pick sides. And in fact, the different speakers pointed out that imperialism regularly fosters authoritarianism at home and abroad. And meanwhile, authoritarian regimes can and do get propped up by imperial processes and relationships, both directly and indirectly. And therefore, this kind of decoupling of authoritarianism and imperialism has to be challenged. Many different cases and countries and episodes in the Middle East were evoked in the discussions, most notably Palestine, Syria, Iran, Libya. These were all, in a sense, presented as the hard cases for progressives to discuss and formulate a progressive left kind of internationalism. These are far more difficult than, let's say, the more easier cases of Saudi Arabia or Jordan or Sisi's Egypt, where I think progressives can have a pretty consistent, or should have a pretty consistent kind of position. Some of the participants spoke of navigating or walking a tightrope between these two different poles. For some, anti-authoritarianism and anti-imperialism are completely false binaries, and we should just jettison this kind of this binary. And for several others pointed out there, we should think about like third factors or third forces that have impoverished self-determination. And a number of people pointed to capitalism as both, in a sense, nurturing imperialism and authoritarianism locally and globally. And the last point I'll just raise is the other kind of theme that came up in this very preliminary, cursory discussion was, well, what should we do going forward? There seemed to be a consensus that we need to kind of do the definitional work, explain exactly what we mean by imperialism in the 21st century, and this may look quite different than imperialism in the 20th century or the 19th century. Think about it in relationship to capitalism. So imperialism is not just bad foreign policy that can be corrected with good foreign policy, but think about the structural forces that generate imperialism today. Those are some really interesting discussion about solidarity. What does it mean to engage in solidarity work? What does it mean to express solidarity in the West with actors on the ground grappling with issues in Syria, in Iran, in Palestine, in Ukraine, for that matter. So we want to think critically about that and be open to the idea that solidarity is going to look different in different cases, right? For an Iranian expressing solidarity for the case for Syrians, it may look different than from how Americans can and should express solidarity with Syrians, right? So we have to be cognizant of the different positions that different groups may have, and not impose a kind of a blanket notion of solidarity. And the last point or theme that came up from my recollection is a notion of being of humility, and approaching this cognizant that we're a group of academics. We don't have a lot of power, and most importantly, we're oftentimes disconnected from social movements and social formations, which makes it difficult for us to participate in this broader international left dialogue, which is important, but nonetheless, we are not necessarily central to it. But hopefully, through our works, through our engagements, we can participate and contribute to what seems, which is a critical moment and seems to be a moment where many others are also thinking about left internationalism.
Thank you very much, Orang. And I must say that our follow-up workshop is going to focus on definitions, kind of echoing some of what you shared about the importance of understanding what these terms are. And it will also be closed, unfortunately, to people who might want to view, but we will get to a point where we will have public fora on this matter, and we are looking forward to working with you further. Thank you for your insights. As many people who are thinking and pondering these questions, they do apply to a number of cases, a very large number of cases. Of late, of course, the past 10 years or so, Syria and Iran figure prominently in addressing this sort of question of, being anti-imperialist at the same time that we are anti-authoritarian, regardless of how we define these terms, and they're all in quotation marks, but it really put a lot of people in a situation where they actually had to prioritize one or the other. So the theoretical discussion, speaking to the question of capitalism, whether these are binary items or not, are really important. But on the ground, people had to prioritize one over the other without jettisoning the other. It was a matter of priorities. And I hope that we continue discussion on this with you. Do you have any last words, Arang, before we move on to Zein? And you might enjoy actually listening to the next segment on adjuncting in the United States.
Yes. No, just to point out, it's a great forum that you've created. These are difficult questions, and I think that was one of the themes of our last meeting, is that no one thinks that they're quick, easy solutions. These are difficult challenges, options, choices that people are making, not just in Washington and New York, but in Damascus and Aleppo and Tehran and elsewhere around the world. And we need some real serious reflection, and be open to feeling uncomfortable, and engaging in some self-critique along the way.
Shukran. What's thank you in Farsi, Persian?
Mutashakira.
Oh, you took it from us.
Yes.
Mutashakira. Mutashakira, whether it's male or female.
Yes. Yeah. We don't see gender.
We don't see gender. Okay, just like people don't see race in America. All right, that's awesome. Mutashakira, and we hope to see you soon, my friend.
Take care. Thank you.
Take care. Salam.
Okay, next up, we are pleased to announce that issue 9.2 of Status Al-Wada Audiovisual Journal is now live. Coming just in time for the summer, this issue comes packed with programs, panels, and standalone interviews covering topics as varied as Arabic dialectics in sub-Saharan Africa to an analysis of the Nile River as a realm of practice.
You can find issue 9.2 on Spotify, iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, and will also be linked in our digest when we publish on Jadaliya in the next 2 days.
Earlier this week, LWA producer Mohammed Abu Ghazala spoke with Status associate producer Starling Carter about this issue. Let's take a look at their conversation.
All right, here we go. We're moving to the interview with Starling. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello and welcome to all our listeners. My name is Mohammed Abu Ghazala, and joining me all the way from Amman is associate producer at Status Al-Wada, Starling Carter. Starling, thank you so much for making time to talk. I hope you're doing well today. Let's just jump right into it. There is a new issue of Status Al-Wada out, issue 9.2, and it's packed with panels, programs, and interviews covering a wide variety of topics. Could you share some of the highlights from this issue?
Yes, thank you, Mohammed. It's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to talk a little bit about issue 9.2. This is our second issue of the year, and we're very excited to be aiming high this year. We're aiming for 4 issues, which is something that's going to be new for us. Usually we do 2 to 3. So we have so much great content coming in, both from Status contributors as well as partners. In this issue, we have quite a bit of audio-only content. So if you subscribe to our podcast, Status Al-Wada, on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts, you may have noticed that we've had quite a regular episodes coming out over the last several weeks, including many from our partners at Voices of the Middle East and North Africa, or VOMINA, which is a show hosted by Malihe Razazan. She has several interviews in this issue, such as an interview with Natasha Iskandar and her new book, which is about the situation of migrant workers in Qatar. That's actually a two-part interview, and it's one of my favorites from this season, as well as an interview on green energy and colonialism in North Africa. So that's just two of several really fascinating audio interviews we have from Vomina in this issue. Definitely check those out. Another highlight, so as you may or may not know, on Status, we do collect a lot of the videos of Jadaliya events as well. So if there was a live event that you missed on Jadaliya over the last couple of months, there's a really good chance that you can head to our website, which is statushour.com, or our YouTube channel and find it there. So one of the highlights of this issue for me is a talk by Jennifer Durr on Living the Nile River, Materiality, Embodiment, and Egypt's Colonial Economy. So that's just one of many. You can find also some previous Live with ASI episodes if you just love this episode so much that you want to check out some of the previous ones.
Thank you so much for breaking this down. This is really useful. And again, I encourage all of our listeners to check it out. The issue will be linked in our episode digest in the coming days, and of course wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud. So be sure to check it out. Starling, really quick before I let you go, are there any issues coming up for Status in the coming months that we should look forward to?
Yes, so please find us on Facebook and Twitter, so you can find out as soon as the new issue is published. But we are expecting a new issue at the end of the summer, probably in September. Like I said, we're aiming for 4 this year. If you happen to be, interested in partnering with Status, if you have an idea for a podcast or a program that you would be interested in co-producing with us, head to our website and you can always shoot us an email. We're always excited to develop new content as well.
Amazing, Starling. Thank you so much for talking to us today. Yeah, I hope to have you again in the future for talk about the next issue when that comes out.
I will see you then.
Yalla, ma salama. Thank you.
Ma salama.
Last month, I spoke. Okay, so should we say something about what happened? Acknowledge it. This is actually very exciting. The 9.2 issue of Status Al-Wada. This is our 8th year, actually. We started in 2014, going on to the 9th year. And we are expanding into the realm of video and have been for some years. And look out for a major project that we're putting together. And we've been talking about it for quite a while that will be connected to Status. And that will be a 24/7 broadcast channel that airs select curated interviews, panels, and lectures for those who would like to fall asleep. Did I just say that? For those who would like to learn and expand their knowledge on the Middle East from an analytical perspective that bridges the set gap between the ivory tower and the broader public. All right, moving on. Last month, I spoke with activist, organizer, author, thinker extraordinaire Zein El-Amine. We talked about his new book titled, Is This How You Eat a Watermelon? Among a number of other topics, specifically the topic of adjuncting in the United States, which is sometimes akin to slave labor. The conversation will be published in full soon on Status and Jadaliya. But until then, I'd like to welcome a very special guest to the show, and that is my longtime friend and super activist, thinker, writer, and so on, and an author of his own podcast, Zein El-Amine. Look at Zein smiling. كيفك Zein?
الحمد لله كيفك انت؟
Good. It's so wonderful to have you with us, and I know that we have not published the interview yet. Last week was crazy because of all sorts of things, including 4th of July and a number of other events. But this week it will be live. If you can tell us a little bit about the interview and about the question of adjuncts as well as your book. So I'll let you get to it.
Thank you, Bassam. We had such fun with that interview, and it was such a pleasure to be in your, I guess you can call it man cave, this wonderful high-tech man cave. Um, we talked mainly about the adjuncts and the struggle that adjuncts are having, not just here in the DMV area, but nationally. And when I joined American University a few years ago, first of all, my director, after accepting me into the Arab World Studies department, which falls under class and gender and race department, he apologized for my salary. And he said, I have to tell you now what your salary is. And he apologized. And when he told me, I was shocked, but I decided to stay in because I know this is a national trend that they're giving adjuncts poverty wages. Um, so so what happened is that um, we after a year or so, I noticed that there are no raises happening, and even though I talked with the director and with my chair, I realized that, first of all, 40% of the professors that teach at American University are actually adjuncts. Now, for those of you who don't know, adjuncts don't have benefits at all. So they don't have health insurance or anything like that. They have to figure out something, what to do, maybe get a partner, get a somebody to cover them from their family. And beyond that, I discovered that 70% of adjuncts nationwide, well, 70% of professors, rather, nationwide are actually adjuncts. And so when negotiations started for a new contract, I complained to my union, which is the Service Employees International Union, SEIU 500, about the fact that we are being paid, actually, if you calculated, and we did some calculations recently, when you calculate the number of hours that adjuncts work and their salaries, specifically at American University, it actually falls below minimum wage per hour. And so we entered negotiations. The negotiations went on for 6 months, and American University hired a union busting firm, basically, to lead the negotiations. In fact, when we were sitting across the table from the administration, that's where we heard from most, is this lawyer that is employed by a union busting firm. It turns out that this is a national trend, that most universities these days, they hire union busting firms because they want to maintain this this exploitation of adjuncts, because it's making them a lot of money. And we discovered that most of the students don't even realize what percentage or who's teaching them. They don't know whether the person teaching them is full-time or adjunct or tenured, or they just have favorites, and they come from all categories. And my students were shocked when I started to wear, basically, my salary on my sleeve, or rather on my shirt in this case. And they would ask me, what is this? And I would say, this is my salary per semester for a 3-credit course teaching 25 students. And they were very shocked. But the turning point came in terms of awareness about our struggle when the Washington Post decided to basically follow me as I taught at 3 different universities to make ends meet: American University, Georgetown University, and George Washington University. Of course, George Washington University was comparable to American University, but the American University actually pays a few $1,000s less per semester than George Washington University. So Washington Post published an article a few months ago, and it was on the front page of the Metro section of the Washington Post. It was a big story, and it had great data, especially the online article had all kinds of data about adjuncts regionally and nationally, and that's where we are now. Adjuncts had been writing me from the region and from across the nation because they've read sort of like this article that really exemplifies what's happening with adjuncts nationwide, and we're continuing to negotiate with American University. And we're at a point also where the Attorney General of Washington, D.C. is interested in this issue. And yes, that's the article right there that you're showing, Bassem, that was there, and that focused on a day in the life of adjuncts, basically. And the struggle continues. American University is not budging, and we're still embroiled in negotiations. And it is this struggle typifies what's happening, especially with the fact that we have a president who used to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services in the Obama administration and has adopted neoliberal policies that we have like Amazon type culture when it comes to labor in these kinds of universities, even though the universities claim to be liberal in their politics, but it means nothing in terms of our negotiations, because there's still there was an incremental change after all this exposure, but it's not enough to keep up with what's happening today, especially when it comes to inflation.
Thank you, Zain, for this, and it's always good to see you. Can you just, before we break, we have about a little bit less than a minute. Can you tell us a little bit about your book, which we can feature also right here?
Yes.
And we will take out the name underneath, because
Though I would
MK.
love to take credit for it.
Actually, we're gonna leave our name under it so we can take credit for publishing the book.
This is a collection of short stories. My first collection of short stories will be published on November 8th. It's a result of me winning the Megaphone Prize for short fiction that's put out by Radix Media. Radix Media is like a worker-owned publisher that came out of the Occupy movement, first in Portland, then moved to New York. But it's going to be short stories that span the Arab world and the Western world. Basically, there are 7 short stories. Some of them take place in Lebanon, some in Saudi Arabia, some in Bahrain, and some right here on the eastern shore of Maryland. And they're of different genres. There's even a ghost story in there. All of them have like political undercurrents, because that's embedded in my subconscious. And I'm really excited because the opening day is gonna be at a center for fiction in New York, which is a pretty prestigious place to open. And for those of you who know Hala Alian, she just agreed to be the moderator for that. One of my favorite, I'm a big fan of the Arab American poet and writer Hala Alian. And also, it's going to be opening on the West Coast. I'm very excited to have my literary mecca, basically City Lights bookstore in San Francisco, to be hosting the opening on the West Coast. And it's going to be in Jack Kerouac Alley, next to City Lights. That's where the opening will happening. And there's going to be a tour that goes from DC to Baltimore to Philly to New York.
Thank you, Zain. We will definitely add this announcement also to the podcast, and
Absolutely.
we hope to connect with you again. I am sure that not only will you be producing further, but unfortunately, this sort of exploitation is not likely to subside, especially in the coming year or two, at least, I guess, when all things are going to, I can't say this word on the air, but they're going to a not so good place,
Poor direction.
very bad direction.
Going pear-shaped.
Yeah. Shukran, Zain, and
Thank
hopefully we will see you soon again here, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you both.
Salam. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, next up, we want to discuss an important two-part series on music politics after the Arab uprisings, published on Jadaliya. Muhammad Ali Nail.
That was like to
what?
get.
Okay, Muhammad Ali Nail delves deep into the social, political, and cultural dimensions of music production in the Arab world over the last decade. This series is a spectacular investigation of how the music landscape in the region was profoundly affected by the monumental events of the Arab uprisings as well as their aftermath. We highly recommend anyone who is interested in music politics and production to check out this series in the digest. Momentarily, we will be chatting with the author, but until then, Basam's going to play a little interlude.
Yeah, I'm gonna play a little interlude, which actually is only a few seconds.
That's fine.
We are hoping that Mo will be joining us. So we kind of have to create some artificial banter, which we didn't plan
I can
today.
tell you what's not artificial. Oh, did I? Okay, we're good. I can tell you what's not artificial is that I made the mistake of wearing flip-flops today, and it's really cold in the studio, and my toes are so cold.
Yes, you're just not wearing.
I'm
anything.
barefoot right now. I mean, but
Yeah.
I didn't.
Okay, Muhammad
that's
here.
Perfect, great.
That's enough.
We shared just the right amount of personal information to stall. Great.
Mo, we are welcoming Mo Ali Nail, Muhammad Ali Nail, to our studio. Welcome, Muhammad. We are extremely happy that you're with us because the mammoth, well-researched article you wrote, in which we published in 2 pieces on Jadaliya, has gotten several really stellar reviews from people who follow the music scene from all quarters of the Middle East, especially the Arab Middle East, and those who are interested in different genres, not just the different geographies. So I hope you can tell us a little bit more about this piece and what compelled you to write this series, besides me nagging you for years.
Well, first of all, it's excellent news what you just said, but I want to start by saying Eid Mubarak for everyone. I hope you guys are having a nice Eid day. I want to say thank you for having me on this show. And third, I want to thank you, Bassam, especially for instigating the idea a few months ago. We were chatting about music, and I like chatting to you about music because you're a DJ, and so you get me when we're just talking casually about different genres, the importance of music, and the way people react to it. And I personally have had an experience with the music that started after the Arab uprisings and during. It affected me on a personal level. Like a lot of youth in the Arab world, the Arab uprisings were like a huge wake-up call. It was like a huge perceptual change, especially for my generation. And so music came, and it was so accommodating to the feeling and to the sentiment that we were all feeling. And it kind of worked as a connecting mechanism that was beyond the direct political narrative or the direct imagery of protests and dissent. And so this is where I came from. You instigated the idea, and I've always thought about it. Like it's been 10 or 11 years now, and time have passed so fast. A lot of things have changed in that regard. And it was also a way for me to understand how these 10 years have went by, and to articulate it and understand where it is at the moment. And where it is at the moment is very different from where it started. Am I still on?
Sorry, yes, we had muted ourselves. Wonderful, thank you. So congratulations on this fantastic article. The series was fantastic. I really enjoyed reading it. And naturally, I am hoping that there's more to come. Can you tell us if there are any projects in the works that you'd like to share with us?
I mean, of course, there is always more to come. And in that regard, at the moment, I'm working on a podcast project for Status. And it's about the protests that happened in 2019 in Lebanon. And during that time, I kept a notebook on daily basis. I was in Beirut, and I felt like what was happening was huge. And so I started taking daily notes. And today, after 2 years and a half, I think it's a good time to start reflecting back on this time when the economic system in Lebanon completely collapsed. And I'm doing that. I'm creating music for it as well. So it's going to be like a storytelling slash ambience, accompanying ambience and music, short episodes, daily basis. And so hopefully soon, I'll start recording. Hopefully soon, I'll be able to share with you.
Thank you so much, Muhammad, and we look forward to more of these productions, the audio productions. And I understand that, and I've heard some of your productions that incorporate political speeches from various historical eras into a really eclectic mix of instrumentals and beyond. So we look forward to all of this, and hope to see you sometime soon in London or Beirut or wherever like life takes you and me, I guess.
I'm looking forward to see you soon. And thank you very much for having me. This was a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Habibi. Take care.
Bye.
And I was really impressed with you bringing in a religious holiday. I usually don't hear you talk
Eid
about
Mubarak.
religious things, but that's
London, I'm feeling
good move.
sentimental.
Good move.
I miss the South Anaya.
Good move. يلا طيب حبيبي. Take care and see you soon.
Thank you.
السلام عليكم.
Next up, we're bringing on a show regular, Muin Rabbani, who, as you all know, is generally a co-editor and also host of the Connections podcast. And he is here to speak with us today about the latest and greatest episode of the podcast. In case you're not already familiar, the Connections podcast combines journalism, analysis, and scholarship to offer timely and informative interviews on current events and broader policy questions, as well as themes relevant to knowledge production.
Muin spoke with Dalia Hatouqa, who is an independent journalist specializing in Palestinian-Israeli affairs, on the summary execution of legendary Palestinian journalist Shireen Abu Akleh.
And we're fortunate to have Muin here with us today to fill us in.
Are we fortunate? I mean, he's always on.
Count your blessings. Every time is a gift.
أهلاً
Just bring him on.
I'll bring Muin on. I just have to say also that Muin has been not just a co-editor at Jadaliya and a regular contributor, writer, author, and podcast host, but he also brings a lot of pleasure to all of us on email
He's
lists.
also our friend.
MK, Bassam, good to see you guys.
Same
too.
here, Muin. We are very excited to host you again. It seems that you're no longer in Netherlands because it was dark every time you called from the Netherlands.
Yeah.
It looks like there's more like light now.
Yes, I'm using a brighter camera.
Excellent. Excellent.
Okay, excellent.
Good. So we'll get right to it and ask if you can share with us some of the insights that Dahlia shared in her conversation with you in the latest episode of Connections.
Yes, well, I spoke with her before the recent travesty of the U.S. alleged investigation into the summary execution of Shireen Abu Akleh, who was, of course, also a U.S. citizen, but already then, Dalia was able to very carefully and also lay out in very much detail precisely what happened on May 11th, which was the day of Shireen Abu Akleh's murder, to get into the Israeli attempt to cover up the murder and basically to deny responsibility for it, to shift blame to others, and also bring up the larger political issues it's raised in terms of press freedom and the impact this would have not only on her, but other journalists who would be working in places like Jenin refugee camp in the occupied territories more generally, and the lack of a robust international response to what was, I think, a very significant event in the history of press freedom in Palestine.
Wonderful. Thank you. And of course, as always, we would like to ask what episodes are currently in the works, because we know that you very much deserve a break, but you've been on a roll. So are there any episodes in the works?
Well, there is one that is provisionally scheduled for next week, and that is with the analyst and North Africa specialist Monica Marks about Tunisia, and specifically about the upcoming presidential referendum and the very significant attempts by Tunisia's current president, Kais Saied, to basically monopolize all political and legislative and judicial powers. And I'm also working with Mariam Hale Davis to put together a series of episodes in September to mark 60 years of Algerian independence and liberation from French colonial rule, and also look at how Algeria has developed in the intervening decades.
Fantastic. I look forward to them.
Thank you very much, Mu'in, and we look forward to seeing you again. I must say, you're actually, this is not appropriate, so I will skip it.
Just whisper it to me later.
I'll just whisper it to Mary Kate later,
and then I'll text it to you. It'll be like a fun game of telephone.
Who just talked about her bare feet on live.
I didn't show my bare feet,
she did
though.
Not show the bare feet.
I have boundaries. Thank you.
She has boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Good to
All right,
see you.
Thank you.
Good talking to you guys.
I'm getting
Omar,
old.
nice to...
Mu'in, I have to share with you that we are all very excited about the Connections podcast becoming a staple at the Arab Studies Institute. And we really hope that you continue with producing it and have the energy to share with us and bring to us a lot of what's going on the ground, from basically the horse's mouth and from people who are actually working on the ground and going beyond just the analytical or armchair speculation that we often see about the Middle East. Shukran, Mu'in.
Thank you, Bassam, and I look forward to it.
Salam.
Bye, Mu'in.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, next let's talk about pedagogy.
How about a small interlude so we can take a break?
And you can whisper that inappropriate thing to me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Assalamu alaikum.
Did you catch that? Okay. Sure.
No. Yeah.
I said this. I said we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, yeah, but we had a break.
Okay. It's okay.
Bathroom break.
I can carry the show. It's fine.
We have a lot
No, it's fine. I got it.
No, first, regarding the pedagogy dimension of the Arab Studies Institute, the Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative team published 3 essential readings posts.
Sorry.
The MESP initiative. The MESP team published. We were just talking about how this show is completely glitchless. It still is. Minus, still is. First, the MESP team published 3 essential readings posts dealing with the urban question and epidemics. If you don't already know, the essential readings series, is curated by MESP, Middle East Studies Pedagogy Initiative, where scholars are invited to contribute lists of crucial texts and readings on a topic relevant to their expertise, whereby the annotation of these different texts is actually quite valuable and helps researchers, educators, and those who are seeking knowledge to sort of encapsulate a topic, even though, of course, this is based on the judgment of the writer. It still is an enormous resource for anybody interested in these various topics. And there are right now many of these essential readings that we hope you can take a look at mespi.org.
And I just have to say, I know we don't have the grad student corner by the great Catherine Haseman on today's show, but I do like to think this is where Kat would step in and highlight this content, because it really is such an exceptional resource, especially for those that are in school, particularly in grad school, working on research projects. Essential readings are one of, in my opinion, the greatest resources that is produced at the Arab Studies Institute. It narrows down the scope of your work. It helps you focus when you're putting together annotated bibliographies. It gives you ideas and perspective. So I highly, highly encourage anyone working on a research project to check out the various essential readings, which, as you can see, cover a whole host of topics. Anyhow, now that I've made my little commercial for essential readings, we are going to share with you an interview that LWA producer Mohammed conducted with the MESPI managing editor Makaram El-Jamal about these essential readings. So let's check out what they had to say.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be joined by a good friend and managing editor at MESPI, Makaram El-Jamal. Makaram, I hope you know the entire LWA misses you very dearly, and we're so happy that you made time to talk to us about this.
Yeah, I'm so glad to be back on.
Yeah. Really quick, Makaram, there have been several essential readings published over the last few weeks on Jadaliyya and MESPI. Can you tell us a little bit about what they cover?
Yeah, for sure. So we have one piece by Justin Stearns on epidemics in the Middle East, which takes a really great comprehensive view on how epidemics and plagues have been discussed over time. So he splits it up into really nice sections on the pre-modern and modern discussions of epidemics. So I'd highly check out that piece, especially considering that we're living through COVID still. And then in addition to that, we actually have another series going on the urban and urbanity. So with that series, we have two contributions currently, one by Nadia Abu Saada on urban Palestine, and then the second one is by Dean Sharp on the urban question in the Arab world, money, violence, and rights. So both of these are, again, just like Justin Stearns, very, very comprehensive, giving great recommendations. Nadia Abu Saada has a wonderful way of taking us through time and how urbanity and Palestine has been discussed. And then Dean Sharp, rather than taking a specific geographic focus like we see with Abu Saada's piece, he takes a more thematic approach, looking at how has capital played into urban development and urbanism within the Middle East. So we're always looking for more contributions, especially to this series, which is one that is close to my heart as an urban planning doctoral student. And I highly suggest any of our viewers and listeners to drop me an email. Mohammed, I know someone on the team will probably be typing away my email in the comments, but it's makaram@mespi.org. So if you're interested in contributing to this series or any essential reading, please do reach out to me.
It's always so nice to hear and see from Makaram.
Absolutely. She's always happy and always positive. And
she brings light into all our lives.
Light.
We love you, Makaram.
Light.
Okay, next we want to talk about the fourth installment in the Middle East Learn and Teach series, or MELT, this time dealing with the topic of Yemen.
If you're not familiar, the MELT series are collections of resources from multidisciplinary perspectives dealing with a particular topic or country. Previous MELT series installments have covered Syria, Palestine, and Iraq. Did you notice how my intonation compared to last year actually flows with the text as opposed to just computer?
I like it.
Right?
I like it.
And I do things people do in media. I kind of shake my head and enunciate.
This is a learning experience for all of us when it comes to speech.
Congratulations to where's my applause? To
I have no idea what you're going to say.
You graduated.
We did this last episode.
Oh.
Thank you.
All right.
I'm still graduated. Thank you. Thank you so much. No, but I was going to say this is an exercise for all of us because Bassam's practicing his intonation and I'm practicing my Arabic pronunciation, which is still consistently incorrect, but I'm working on it.
Yeah, but we talked about Dahlia versus Dahlia. That's because, like, for instance, the political scientist Robert Dahl is spelled almost like Dahlia spells their name.
I'm learning, so thank you all for your patience.
So, but everything's going to be okay, I think.
It's going to be كل شيء تمام. Inshallah, we'll see.
Yadra.
Okay, to tell us more about the Melt series on Yemen, we have none other than managing editor for special product. You're doing so well. Managing editor for special projects at Jadaliyya, Carly A. Krakow.
And she is also, I must say, hi Carly. She's also the co-editor of the environment page on Jadaliyya.
Woohoo!
It's a true fact. How are you both?
Carly, we are very excited to
see
have you. Your internet is a little spotty, so if for any reason something happens, we will communicate maybe something. Where are you?
I see that. Can you hear me? It's having a temper tantrum, unfortunately.
No, we can. Everything's fine. Everything. I'm just like taking a precaution. Carly, first of all, thank you.
If something happens, we know the drill.
Absolutely. We don't need to rehearse. We can take care of it. Carly, first of all, it's great to have you back. We are trying to pressure you to go back and produce the catch up with Carly Krakow, because right now there's so much SHIT happening all over the world, and you used to like tell us a lot about it, sort of take us away a little bit from ASI's more particular concerns about the universe, but more like analytical aspects. So we hope that you do consider coming back. In the meantime, can you share with our viewers what we can expect to find in this Melt series on Yemen?
Thank you so much, Bassam. It's great to be back on. Yeah, been a crazy busy year for me, and then a very crazy year worldwide, as you said, but really wonderful to see you both and be here. So yeah, hopefully my internet behaves enough for me to just share a little bit with you about this Yemen Melt that we are very excited to have recently published. This is a collection on Yemen that you can find on Jadaliyya. It's part of the Arab Studies Institute's Middle East Learn and Teach, or MELT series for short, as everyone will have just heard from Bassam and MK. And just to give a tiny bit of background, this first began in 2020 with a great installment published by the Syria page. And then after that, I took it over as managing editor for special projects. And our most recent edition is now this collection on Yemen. I was particularly excited for this one to come out because, as I say in the introduction text to the collection, as Yemenis continue to suffer, we have seen a wider discussion and awareness about which groups of refugees and displaced people worldwide attract media attention to highlight their struggles, and rightly so, as it should be, and which groups are overlooked. So Yemenis have really, unfortunately, typically not been afforded this same level of coverage, despite or perhaps because of the fact that the US, the UK, and European nations continue to support the Saudi and UAE-led coalition through massive amounts of arms sales. So you can read for much more detailed information and statistics, but just to highlight that more than 23 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance in Yemen. At least 10,000 children have been killed or injured since 2015. So these are just staggering and almost unfathomable figures. And what this MELT aims to do is pull together various resources that can be used pedagogically if you're an instructor, perhaps trying to find ways to bring Yemen into your teaching. They can help guide students doing research or just looking to learn more. And most of all, really, this collection is for anyone, I think, who wants to learn something about Yemen, whatever that is, whether you only have 5 minutes to give part of a video broadcast or a podcast a quick listen, or you want to go deeper with some of the articles and interviews. This collection has something for you in English as well as in Arabic, which is really great. And I'm particularly glad that we have content on Yemeni culture, including cinema and literature. So what this does, I think, is rightfully centers the bombardment and injustice that people have been living through for almost 8 years, but simultaneously shares a bit about all that Yemen and its people are besides and beyond the war as well. And there are so many wonderful contributors featured here. And I also have to mention the great team who helped make this happen, including the Arabian Peninsula page editors. There's a link to their page and more about their work, some of which is included in the collection as well as thanks as always to the SOM and others, including John Callis and Raina Newsom and all the people who get these types of collections up and running on our website and help spread the word about them. So excited for people to take a look at this.
Wonderful.
Thanks, Carly.
Thank you. This is a fantastic resource. Like Carly mentioned, it's a wonderful resource for anyone who already is familiar in doing research on Yemen. This is a great one-stop shop to find all of the different content produced on Yemen, but it's also a really great place to start for folks who want to learn more about the crisis in Yemen and about the different humanitarian actions and the likes that are needed.
And actually, if you look at the different melts that we've done, actually they could constitute like a really good module
for sure.
for teaching on various topics from Yemen to Iraq and a number of other melts that Carly and others have produced over the past few years. So actually, we started this with you, Carly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the Syria page got it started, and that was, I think, 2020. And then from there, we did the Iraq one along with Sam and Sinan, and Maya Mekdashi joined us for a broadcast with that. And then we had a big one on Palestine that I think was really useful for people with everything that was going on with Sheikh Jarrah and Gaza. So it's great now to kind of have these for people to look back at and different uses and contexts. So
thank you.
Glad to add this one to the bunch.
And we do have all sorts of actors to thank, the various imperialist powers, the authoritarian regimes.
For making this possible.
Business exploiters.
Without you, we would have nothing to say.
This would be a very boring show all realm. In terms of the
we should
social
probably
science.
add that as a disclaimer on the anti-authoritarianism.
Or thank you, like in the credits.
Shukran kathir.
Shukran.
About the billions in arms sales, a lot
yes,
less,
exactly.
A lot less work would get published.
Exactly.
So
Special thanks to the Israeli apartheid occupation. Okay.
And Lockheed Martin.
And Lockheed
Thank you.
I think you'll all have a 3-hour show.
Are we on mute?
No, we're not.
Oh, okay. Because
people are hearing what we are saying.
Because it's difficult to reproduce that sort of... All right. Thank you so much, Carly. And we hope to see you again. Interestingly, your video is now actually perfect. Went back to be perfect. So do you mind repeating everything you said?
Just from the top.
Clear video.
Oh, I hope you got some of it. I'll figure out when I watch it back. But I don't know. We could get really paranoid about, the arms sales stuff gets in and out. And then now the jokes are all clear. I don't know. What should we think?
We're all good. We're all good, Carly. Take care of yourself and please join us again, and hopefully you'll really produce the catch-up series.
Good to see you, friend.
Salam.
Great to see you as always. Thanks so much.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Continuing on the topic of pedagogical content, which I think is...
Let's take a...
Okay. I was just going to say that I always enjoy and appreciate that we have a section on pedagogy when in fact everything we produce is pedagogical. Is it not? Right. I just wanted to put it out there. Okay, that's fine.
Oh, I think I hit the peak with my as my friends call it, the electrocuted laugh.
Women everywhere, thank you for shattering the glass ceiling. Okay, up next, the MESB team published the first 2 parts in
let's take another break.
Okay, up next, the MESB team published the first 2 parts in actually, I believe there are now 3 parts up. The first 3 parts of a 6-part series of peer-reviewed articles review on Arab uprisings, which present articles concerned with the Arab uprisings published in 2010 all the way to 2020 from our peer-reviewed articles database. The first part deals with roots, causes, and reflections, and the second part covers theory and framing, and I believe the third part covers actors, if I'm not mistaken. Anyhow, yesterday, once again, LWA producer Mohammed spoke with Shakila Omar, who is the peer-reviewed articles database coordinator at MESB, which means that she is the mastermind behind these peer-reviewed article review summaries. So let's see what Shakila had to say about this installment.
I also must say that Shakila has been remarkable in terms of lifting the peer-reviewed articles database from the Knowledge Production Project on her own shoulders for many years now, along with the team that she has developed, as well as the offshoot of from that database, which is the peer-reviewed articles review, in which we curate these reviews or these journal articles from peer-reviewed articles every 3 months. And of course, the bouquets represent this additional thematic curation now on the Arab uprisings. So big thanks to Shakila for shouldering this project and being exquisite in handling it. So we'll go to
see what she has to say.
Yeah, let's see what she has. Assalamu alaikum.
Hello, everyone. I'm so happy today to be joined by Shakila Omar, who is the peer-reviewed articles database coordinator at MESPI. Thank you so much for talking to us today, Shakila. In recent weeks, there have been a number of posts in the Arab Uprisings and peer-reviewed articles series on MESPI. Can you tell us a little bit about the series?
Sure. So far there are 2 posts up of the series, which I am very excited to be talking about because it's the culmination of months of research and work through thousands of articles from our database. It's a 6-part series that forms part of ASI's 10 Years On project. The series encapsulates a decade of peer-reviewed academia on the topic of the uprisings and can serve as a phenomenal starting point from which to not only research but interrogate and reflect, whether that be from a historical, theoretical, or other angle. But more than that, this is an invaluable resource for educators trying to make sense of a long, protracted, and complex set of events in order to address the classroom.
Thank you for breaking that down for us, Shakila. Could you give us a few words on the post dealing with articles grappling with roots, causes, and reflections in the Arab uprisings?
Sure. So that post, which is the first one in the series, features articles that discuss, well, of course, the roots and causes, including, say, fragmentation amongst political actors, the determinants of political instability, as well as articles reflecting on, for example, the different experiences of the uprisings, the transition process, the dynamics of protest mobilization, etc.
That's okay.
Oh
no
my
one needed
God.
to. No one needed to know
No-
what we
no
just
one
said.
needed
No
to
one
know.
needed to know that. So
But thanks, Bennett, for looking at us, making us feel weird.
next up, we're going to move on to our regular segment on new texts out now.
Bassam. Oh no, I should just read.
Anta Bassam.
Sorry,
Nothing.
what'd you say?
I said Anta Bassam.
Oh, Anta Bassam. Okay, this thing is falling off of your ear.
I think it's cool. I think it kind of makes me look like a pop star who like takes their head thing out in the middle of a concert. You know, they're like always playing with it and then they take it out. The long and short of it is I have really poor hearing and I can't hear Bassam if I have this side in. So, okay.
Okay. Jadalia co-editor Maya Migdashi's new stellar and really provocative, awesome book titled Sectarianism, and that's, yes, Sectarianism. And the subheading is Sovereignty, Secularism, and the State in Lebanon, is an ethnography of state power and demonstrates how sexuality structures and sorry?
I don't think that makes sense.
That makes sense, yeah. Demonstrates how sexuality structures, there's something missing here.
Impact, maybe?
And how sexuality structures inflects citizenship, bureaucracy, and the content of social movements. Basically, we are really excited about this volume in which Maya brings together a number of really thorny topics dealing with Lebanon, gender, sex, sectarianism, and I should say that we are interviewing Maya in the coming weeks about her book, and we will be featuring her here also on LWA to correct whatever intro that the text here tried to present.
Excellent. This book also rethinks the history and experience of the nation state in the Middle East by focusing on war, displacement, and resistance as recursive temporalities. Be sure to check out this new text out now interview in the digest.
And it's one of the most read Newtons recently, which is not a surprise given that Maya Mikdashi's short-ish post on how not to study gender has been one of the most read articles on Jadaliyya for the past 10 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, finally, we have our must-read recommendations for you. Sure, I'll say your line. In an exciting two-part roundtable...
Mo just texted us saying structures is a verb, and how sexuality structures and inflects.
I see.
So,
okay.
So let's, in fairness, let's reread the piece. Basically, what was supposed to be said is that Maya Mikdashi's new book, Sectarianism, is an ethnography of state power and demonstrates how sexuality structures and inflects citizenship, bureaucracy, and the concerns of social movements. So I apologize for assuming that structures was actually not a verb. It actually is a verb.
Just evidence that sometimes we're reading and we don't know what we're saying.
Yes, I think we should rehearse this a bit more.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Bassam, in an exciting two-part roundtable titled Rethinking Cultural Heritage, participants... Is anybody still watching anyway? In an exciting two-part roundtable titled Rethinking Cultural Heritage, participants discussed the combination of liberal politics of cultural recognition with capitalist co-optation of cultural and national assets.
The participants addressed questions such as what does it mean to rescue, preserve, and to render visible heritage beyond such configurations of the contemporary heritage regime. It additionally asked questions such as how do we address the importance of preservation in the face of political violence? The participants also addressed matters such as the role of language in engaging heritage and much more.
And that brings us to the end of our show.
Yes, it does.
It covers a month of knowledge production in June 2022. Please be sure to check out the episode digest on Jadaliyya later this week for links to all the content we covered today. And you can also access a lot of this material on social media where we present snippets of the various segments, interviews, and videos.
Thank you to all of our guests and viewers. We are taking a must-deserved month-long break. That's such strong... Mohammed said, I would like a break, so I'm going to write it into the script. And you know what? That's wise, because he knows that we don't always read all the way through ahead of time. And so now we've announced it publicly, so it must be done. We will be taking a month-long break, which is to say we will not be hosting a show in the month of August. However, we will be back in September for episode 1, season 3 of Live with ASI, a month of knowledge production.
And we don't have a script for an I am Bassam Haddad and so on. So can we...
And I am Bassam Haddad.
And I'm Mary-Kate Smith. Thank you all for joining us, and we will now roll the credits that Bennett fixed with a number of additions, including the audio engineer that helped us out, Walter Constanza. Thank you all, and see you in September. Assalamu alaikum.